The sun had barely risen above the distant peaks when the wilderness awoke with a whisper, the sound of rustling leaves, the hum of cicadas, and the faint song of a river cutting through the heart of an endless forest. In that serene chaos, a man named Arjun walked alone, his boots sinking slightly into the damp earth, the weight of his backpack pressing against his shoulders. He wasn't lost, he preferred to say he was disconnected from the noise. Life in the city had grown unbearable, the deceit, the race for money, the emptiness that came with winning battles that meant nothing. So Arjun had left, seeking peace, seeking himself. Little did he know, fate had already planned a storm to shatter that calm. The morning breeze carried something different that day, a scent of danger hidden beneath the perfume of wildflowers. As he bent down to refill his bottle at the river, a sudden cry sliced through the still air. It wasn't the roar of an animal. It was human. A woman's voice, trembling, desperate, echoing through the trees. Without hesitation, Arjun dropped his bottle and sprinted toward the sound, pushing through branches that clawed at his skin. He followed the echoes, each one growing fainter, until he burst into a clearing and froze. There, lying motionless on the ground, was a woman, her leg twisted, her face pale, and beside her slithered away a cobra, retreating into the undergrowth. The bite marks on her ankle told the story before her lips could. Arjun's heart pounded. He had seen fear before, but never this raw, never this real. "Hey! Stay with me," he shouted, kneeling beside her. Her eyes fluttered open, deep brown, glassy, filled with pain and confusion. "Snake," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Don't move," he said, tearing open his bag. His hands worked fast, memory guiding him. He had once been a trek guide before life pulled him away. He tied a firm strip of cloth above the bite, slowing the venom's crawl, then reached for his knife and made a small incision, pressing, sucking out what he could, spitting the venom into the dirt. Minutes felt like hours, the world shrinking to the sound of her shallow breaths. When she lost consciousness, he lifted her into his arms, her head resting against his chest, and began the long trek toward an old ranger's hut he'd seen the day before. The journey was brutal, the forest was no friend to the weak. Roots tripped him, thorns sliced his skin, and sweat blinded his eyes, but he didn't stop. "You're not dying today," he muttered, as if promising himself. When he finally reached the hut, the sun was already sinking behind the trees. He laid her on a cot, lit a fire, and crushed herbs he knew could neutralize toxins. All night he watched over her, eyes red from exhaustion, feeding her sips of water when she stirred, whispering words she couldn't hear. "You'll make it. You have to." By dawn, her fever broke. When she woke, she didn't remember the details, only the face that hovered above her, rugged, kind, smeared with dirt but glowing in the morning light. "Who are you?" she asked weakly. Arjun smiled faintly. "Just someone passing through." "You saved me," she murmured, staring at the bandaged leg. He shrugged. "You were just unlucky. I was just nearby." But she saw something in his eyes, not arrogance, not pity, just purpose. Her name, she told him, was Meera. She had been on a solo trek through the hills, escaping her own chaos. Her father had recently passed, and she needed silence to think. Arjun didn't press for details, he knew pain when he saw it. Over the next few days, as she regained her strength, a quiet friendship bloomed between them. They gathered firewood together, shared stories of cities they both hated, laughed at the absurdity of fate throwing them together in the middle of nowhere. There was warmth in that loneliness, the kind that only two broken souls could understand. But every time Meera looked away, Arjun caught her hiding something, a weight she couldn't name. One night, under a sky crowded with stars, she finally spoke. "I wasn't just trekking," she confessed. "I was running. From people who want something that's mine." Arjun frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked up, her face bathed in moonlight. "My father left me everything he built, a fort, hundreds of acres of land, businesses. But my uncle, he wants it all. He's dangerous. I thought if I disappeared for a while, he'd stop looking. But I guess the wilderness had other plans." Arjun listened in silence, feeling the fire crackle between them. He had never met anyone who carried royalty in her blood yet spoke with the humility of dust. He didn't know whether to pity her or admire her strength. "So you're an heiress," he said softly. She smiled bitterly. "An heiress who almost died alone." The words hung heavy in the air. In the days that followed, danger began to close in. Arjun noticed footprints near the hut, distant engine sounds at night. Someone was searching, and not for wildlife. Meera's uncle had sent men to find her. One evening, as the rain poured like silver needles through the trees, they came, rough voices, flashlights cutting through the mist. Arjun acted on instinct. He grabbed Meera's hand and whispered, "Run." They darted into the forest, soaked, breathless, chased by shadows. The forest became a labyrinth of fear and thunder. Meera stumbled, pain shooting through her healing leg, but Arjun lifted her again, refusing to slow down. They reached the edge of a cliff, the world below swallowed by fog. "We can't go back," Meera gasped. "Then we go forward," he said, gripping her hand. "Trust me." He spotted a fallen tree bridging the ravine. Slippery, narrow, but their only chance. Step by step, they crossed, hearts thundering louder than the storm. A gunshot cracked the night. The bark exploded inches from Arjun's head. He didn't hesitate, he shielded Meera with his body, forcing her to keep moving. When they finally reached the other side, the forest grew still again. The danger faded behind them, but so did the illusion of peace. That night, as they found shelter beneath a rock ledge, Meera wept, not from fear, but gratitude. "Why would you risk your life for me?" she whispered. Arjun looked away, rainwater dripping from his hair. "Because someone once saved mine, and I couldn't return the favor. Maybe this is my chance." The sincerity in his tone broke something inside her. She reached for his hand, and for the first time, their silence spoke louder than words. The next morning, they finally reached the outskirts of civilization, an ancient fort rising like a memory from the mist. Meera stopped, eyes wide. "That's it," she breathed. "My father's fort." Arjun gazed at it, awe flickering in his eyes. It wasn't just stone and history, it was her legacy, her burden, her destiny. But standing beside her, he realized something deeper. Sometimes saving a life wasn't about heroism. It was about restoring someone's reason to fight again. When they entered the fort, Meera's loyal caretaker, an old guard, recognized her instantly and wept. Within hours, the authorities were notified, her uncle arrested, and her inheritance secured. But when Meera turned to thank Arjun, he was gone. No goodbye, no farewell, just the memory of a man who appeared like lightning and vanished just as suddenly. Days later, standing on the fort's balcony, Meera looked toward the forest. "You didn't just save my life," she whispered. "You gave it meaning again." Far away, Arjun walked along a dirt road, backpack slung over his shoulder, a faint smile on his lips. He didn't need rewards or recognition, knowing she was safe was enough. The wind carried her voice to him in spirit, and he whispered back, "Stay brave, Meera." The camera would slowly pan to the horizon, where the forest met the rising sun, a symbol of rebirth, of destiny fulfilled. And as the narrator's voice deepens, the message becomes clear. Sometimes, the wilderness doesn't test your strength, it reveals your purpose. If you felt that heartbeat, that spark of courage and destiny, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because more stories of fate, courage, and the power of humanity await you here. Every story has a pulse, and maybe, the next one could be yours.